These are dangerous times for the citizens of Azeroth. The Blizzard gods are greatly agitated as they buff and nerf all in their path. We of the Holy Order must maintain our humility and keep our heads down if we are to have any hope at all of not being turned into another class that summons pets. Light save us. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the halls of the righteous. Some great things are happening to our beloved Holy Spec, but first, let's get the drama out of the way. The Glimmer is gone. It's gone for good. You can see right here the following talents have been removed. Glimmer of Light up first, Daybreak second. But let's take a moment to remember our Glimmer, because whether you liked it or disliked it, it did serve the Holy Order, and it did do some awesome things. On a personal level, I'm glad to see this go. I always feel like when they add all these passives to Holy Shock, what they aren't able to do then is make it actually a fun button to press. People will say that spreading the glimmers around was a great way to exhibit skill expression. They're not completely wrong, but it was a way to show skill expression that sucked. I really didn't hate Glimmer. I thought the damage reduction part was kind of cool, but having to use your Holy Shock charges just to refresh the Glimmer on someone so they could maintain the buff, I always thought was kind of lame. And to be honest, I'll happily give it up just to make Holy Shock actually move a health bar a little bit. Overall, I think this is an outstanding change. I think Glimmer added complexity, but it didn't actually make the spec feel better. I was never like, oh, I've got all my glimmers out, now things are good. It was just always kind of like a lesser version of Discipline Priest to me. We salute you, dear Glimmer. May you rest in peace. But I think this overall is an outstanding change for our class. We also lose Daybreak, which was the ability that just pulled the glimmers off and made them heal. So you would hit your Divine Toll or whatever, spread your glimmers out, and then you'd hit Daybreak and pull them off, and it would trigger healing. It was a great combination for AoE healing. So Daybreak was actually just the ability that pulled them back in and activated glimmers. However, most of us also took Rising Sunlight, and Rising Sunlight was the one that gave you those 2 additional Holy Shock casts, so it gives you that little 3-round burst Holy Shock. We lose Daybreak. Rising Sunlight is now a passive. And the way it's been redesigned is that when you hit Wings or after casting Divine Toll, you'll get the Rising Sunlight passive, which I think is outstanding. The problem was you'd hit your Avenging Wrath, and then if you didn't have a Glimmer out, you couldn't activate this ability because it would tell you don't have an active Glimmer out. So you'd have to get a Glimmer out. Then you'd hit Daybreak and it pulled that Glimmer off, and then you could start doing the bursting and things like that. And it was just a 2 or 3 step process, depending on whether you were in a state of preparedness or panic. And I rotate between those pretty quickly, and I tend to favor the latter. So you really had to prep up a bunch of cooldowns to get it rolling. And this is what I've been talking about. For me, the 2 problems with Holy Paladin were, number one, you'd have to get a bunch of cooldowns rolling. So you cast your tears into your Hand of Divinity, and then you'd hit your Divine Toll, and then you'd pull it all off with Daybreak, and then you'd get up your Beacon of Virtue, and then you'd pump into that to heal. And so you had to create what I called a cooldown cake just to get health bars moving, when you could clearly watch other healers like monks or something just punch an enemy and fill up everyone around them in seconds. And so it didn't feel good to have to hit 30 abilities to move a health bar. And so one of the core problems is having 30 different cooldowns that all do a little bit of healing. but none of them actually feel great to press in and of itself, although Tears is pretty amazing, although it continues to get nerfed, so we'll see. And our hero talents are really going to carry us. I think we have some pretty amazing hero talents in the Templar of the Sun branch, although you'll see up here, Lightsmith got some really nice buffs. So we'll have to see how Lightsmith plays out. And remember, in the Lightsmith tree, from a PvP perspective, one of the things I'm really happy about is the fear reduction, 50%. Right now, Blessing of Sack kind of sucks because it just doesn't work against a ton of CC types, but having a 50% reduction plus all these extra increases might bring Lightsmith around. We'll have to see how that works out. Removing some of these cooldowns and baking them into the spec as passives or abilities that get activated in sequence to something else. So you hit your Avenging Wrath, and now you're going to get the effects of that Rising Sun, where you're going to get that sweet-ass 3-burst Holy Shock, which is going to be awesome. And so that begins to address the cooldown cake problem. The other problem I've consistently complained about with the current version of Holy Paladin is that our spenders, Word of Glory, the single target heal, or our Light of Dawn, whoosh, bask in my radiance, sexies. That's our AoE heal, and neither of them felt great to press. I mean, they were instacast heals. You had to spend both holy power and mana on them, and they were kind of eh. And so addressing the spenders not feeling that great to spend, here we go with the new talent, Extrication, where our spenders gain up to 30% additional crit chance based on the target's current health, with lower health targets more likely to be critically struck. So where Execute's more likely to blow your health to 0, this ability is more likely to fill your health bar up depending on how low your health is. This is a wonderfully thematic and effective talent. Makes it very exciting to use Word of Glory, gives it some extra oomph. I think this is phenomenal. It plays very well into kind of our crit theme and also our protection theme. I think this is a wonderful addition to the talent tree, and I'm very excited to check this out. Next talent up, Liberation. Reduce the mana cost of Holy Light, Crusader, Striker, Judgment. Not great, but mana has been a problem for us. So anything that helps is nice to have. The next one's for Judgment. Truth Prevails. Your Judgment heals you and has a reduced mana cost. That's kind of great when you think about how many judgments you're throwing out. Also, if you're completely full and you throw the judgment out, which will happen from time to time, 50% of the overhealing goes into 2 of your allies within 40 yards. So every time you judge, you're going to heal yourself. And if you're topped off, you're going to throw a little heal on your allies. When you think about the amount of judgments going out, that's really nice. Glistening Radiance has been redesigned. Glistening Radiance was the ability that when you spent holy power, it had a chance to activate Glimmer of Light's healing or damage, depending on the target it was on. Well, now that Glimmer of Light's gone, you won't need to trigger Glimmer of Light. Now it's been changed so that spending holy power has that same 25% chance to trigger, guess what? Saved by the Light's absorbed effect, but at 30% effectiveness without activating its cooldown. Saved by the Light is that passive ability that if someone who has your beacon on goes below 30% health, they get a damage absorbed shield. Well, now you put that beacon on someone, which there's some more beacon goodness coming up here in just a second. You go ahead and you get those sweet holy power built up. Beautiful. And then you're going to hit that Word of Glory or that Light of Dawn spender, and you're going to get a 25% chance to activate Saved by the Light and not trigger its 1-minute cooldown. So you could just be proccing these mini shields every time you use a spender, and you know how often you use spenders. The drawbacks, of course, is that it's only 30% effectiveness, so you don't get the massive shield that you get when they drop below 30% health. However, they still get that shield if they drop below 30%, as long as it's not on that 1 minute CD. So you get it at 30% effectiveness, and you can't really dictate when it happens, but it's just this nice passive shielding going out from using your spenders. And when you couple that with the critical strike chance increase on top of it, really gives the spenders a much better feeling, I think. Another redesign, Light's Protection, where Glimmer of Light gave you that damage reduction. It's been changed so that every ally with your beacon just gets a flat 5% damage reduction. How awesome is that? You just put a beacon on someone, they take 5% less damage. That's way better than them having to have a glimmer up. You don't have to worry about maintaining a glimmer. You don't have to worry about any of that crap. You can just put up a beacon on someone and they take 5% less damage. I think this is a much better talent and really plays into what beacon should be. A protective ward that gives healing and protection to your charge. Whoever you're in charge of keeping up. And I think it's a fantastic addition. And you know, you can just see Blizz in there having their cocktails, smoking their weed like they do in that office. And they were like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do another one. Let's redesign another ability. So here we go with Overflowing Light. Used to accumulate the overhealing from Glimmer of Light and give you a shield. Well, now 15% of Holy Shock's overhealing is converted into an absorb shield. But it can't exceed 10% of your max health. So you get a little bit of overhealing protection from your Holy Shock healing into an absorb shield. So it's just kind of a way to take the edge off of the overhealing, especially if you start pumping those 3-round burst Holy Shocks into someone and it really tops them off. You get to save a little bit of that as a shield. Not a lot of shielding there, and I'm not sure, depending on how powerful Holy Shock becomes, we'll see. This talent gets skipped a lot, actually. Some people take it, but a lot of people pass up on it. Holy Shock just doesn't do a lot of healing, so I'm not so sure about this one. This is the one that I'd kind of be, I might pass on this. The rest of these seem like you're definitely going to take them. But this one I could see being skipped, depending on how much healing Holy Shock can do. Although now, without having to worry about all the Glimmer healing and all that shit, they can just tune it to really be an effective heal, I'm hoping. And then, of course, we talked about Rising Sunlight being triggered by Avenging Wrath and Divine Toll rather than having to hit Daybreak. Overall, I am very, very happy about these changes. And even if it's not quite there yet, this is a beautiful step in the right direction, in my opinion. There was just way too much going on and too little happening. Felt like you were playing a game of Simon Says and you yellow, green, blue, yellow, green just to get the health bars up. We don't need all that. Break the kit down into effective abilities that are fun to use instead of slicing up over 30 abilities that are not that great to use. So this is definitely a step in the right direction. Outstanding job by the Blizz dev team, in my opinion. Again, it's not perfect and it's not done. But this, on top of our hero talents, things are looking up. I think everybody in the Paladin Hall here is going to be pretty excited. Even the big guy here. He's going to like what's going down. The thing with your class is always the lens in which you experience an expansion. So if it doesn't feel good, the class that you love and have dedicated your really an unhealthy amount of your life to, I mean, it just makes everything not feel good. That's why I think people are so passionate about their class and spec, because it is the lens of the experience you're going to have. So glad to see our lens is getting that glorious shine put on it like it deserves. So keep enjoying all that fun in the sun for a little bit, but just know pretty soon we're going hot. Be prepared, Oklahoma gang. Be prepared. Oklahoma out.